Good morning again, boys and girls. I am back and I am so excited to read chapter 11 today. I hope you are excited too, so please pay attention very closely. Pay attention to what's going to happen to this chapter and try to find out what is Karina's final decision about her parents being un-German. Okay, so chapter 11. Karina didn't see the Krugmans again except at meal times when she helped her mother deliver food and later take away the dirty dishes. Sunday afternoon, Karina felt restless. It was hard to imagine little Rachel cooped up behind her bedroom wall day after day after day. She was bored, yet she could go anywhere. Rachel must be going crazy, Karina decided. On sudden impulse, she knocked on the wardrobe and then pulled it away from the wall. Two faces peered anxiously up at her. Because it was daylight out, it would be too dangerous for Rachel to come out into her room with the curtains open. And it would be too suspicious looking too closely to the curtains this early in the day. So Karina knew if she wanted to keep Rachel company, she would have to venture into the dark, smelly hole the Krugmans had been forced to call a home for the past week. See, now I can really see that Karina has changed. Without giving herself a chance to think and thereby change her mind, she grabbed a few sheets of paper and, taking one last breath of fresh air, squatted down and crawled into the narrow space between the walls. She knew she wouldn't suffocate in the small room because air holes had been drilled into the bathroom, but the space was so confining, Karina still felt short of breath. Pulling the wardrobe closed, almost closed, she couldn't help smelling to hear Rachel's excited chatter. She couldn't help smiling to hear Rachel's excited chatter. You've never been in here before, Rachel said, sounding pleased to have a visitor. Mama sleeps there, she said, pointing to a pile of old blankets, which Karina supposed served as a mattress. And I sleep here next to my baby. Karina looked in the empty makeshift cradle. What's that? She asked, pointing to some rough hewn boards propped against the narrow wall behind Frau Krugman's sleeping space. Rachel giggled. That's the bathroom. Oh. The room was narrow, fitting somehow between her bedroom and the bathroom, and also between the hall and the outside wall of the house. The space would have been impossibly small if it hadn't been for the closet in the bathroom, which had a fake back to it. Towels were placed in the closet to make it appear deeper than it was. But in fact, it was shallow to allow more room behind it in the hidden room. The other night, her father had explained that no one would ever guess the room was hidden there unless they were specifically and carefully looking for it. And that would never happen, her father had promised. What's this? Rachel asked, lifting the paper and finding the small box Karina had brought in with the sheets of paper. Karina smiled. What does it look like? Rachel opened the box carefully. Out spilled a number of pencils of different colors. They're beautiful, the little girl breathed reverently. She looked up at Karina. Are they for me to use? They're for you to keep, Karina said. She had found them in a box under her bed when she had recently been looking for the kitten. To keep? Honestly? The girl asked, her eyes wide with disbelief. Of course. Why would I lie to you? Because you don't like Jews, Rachel said simply. Karina swallowed uneasily, afraid to look up to see if Sophie listened to their conversation. She stared down at Rachel's bent head, searching for some reply. Could she deny it? Could she defend it? Why should she? And what should she say? I like this color best, Rachel said, holding up a pencil. Startled out of her thoughts, Karina said, What? This is my favorite color, Rachel repeated. But what about what you just said? Karina wanted to ask. I suppose to hate Jews, yet here I am giving you my colored pencils to you. I should get up and leave, she thought, but instead she said, Why is that your favorite color? It's the color of the setting sun and the color of your hair. Karina picked up a pencil, a burnt umber. And this is the color of your hair. Rachel's smile disappeared. I wish my hair were this color, she said, fondling the reddish yellow pencil. Why? Rachel twirled the pencil between her fingers. Then I wouldn't have to hide. If I had light hair, no one would know I was Jewish, and I wouldn't have to stay in this horrible little room. Rachel, Sophie said sharply, you're lucky to have a room like this. Just think of your poor papa and Ruthie who have to sleep with cows and goats. Rachel's lips turned down at the corners. I want Ruth and Papa to be here, she wailed. Shh, Sophie said. The little girl bent her head and cried against her lifted knees. Karina looked back and forth between Sophie and Rachel. All the pity she had been working so hard to keep from feeling now pinched at her heart. She picked up a sheet of paper and began to draw. After a few moments, Rachel's sobs quieted to an occasional hiccup. Finally, she lifted her head and watched Karina draw. What's that? Rachel asked. This, Karina said, putting the finishing touches on the flower boxes, is your house. Rachel frowned. No, it's not. My house doesn't look like that. My house has white shutters and it's bigger. Well, this is the house where you live now. This is what it looks like in the summer. Now, there are no flowers in the window boxes, and there are long, thick icicles hanging from the roof. Understanding began to show on Rachel's face. You mean this is this house? This is where we are right now? Karina nodded. Rachel smiled. I like this house, she said. It's pretty, even if it is smaller than mine. I like it very much. She nodded her head and took the drawing from Karina, placing it next to her mattress. Now I know where I am, she said happily, and she picked up the yellow pencil and started drawing on a clean sheet of paper while Karina watched. Later, a knock on the wall startled Karina. As the wardrobe pulled away from the opening, her heart beat faster. Even after she saw that it was just her mother with the midday dinner, her palms stayed sweaty and the heat around her neck still choked her. She wondered if the same thing happened to the Krugmans every time the wardrobe moved. She glanced over at Sophie and saw that the older woman looked tense, staring at the opening with wide eyes. Karina hastily looked away, feeling as if she were spying. Karina crawled out from behind the wardrobe so the Krugmans could eat. Before she closed the wardrobe, she opened her bottom desk drawer and pulled out the doll. The doll had a china face and hands, but the nose was chipped and a couple of fingers on the right hand were missing, and the doll had been so tightly hugged that it was rather limp through the middle. Karina held out the doll to Rachel. Here, she's beautiful, Rachel said breathlessly, not yet lifting her hands to take it, as though afraid it would be snatched away at the last moment. She's for you. Reverently, Rachel took the doll. Briefly, their hands touched. Karina smiled as the little girl carefully cradled the doll in her arms. Tag never lies still in the cradle for me, Rachel said, her eyes not leaving the doll's blushed cheeks. Tag? Karina asked. The kitten, Sophie explained. Rachel only sees the kitten in the day when you're not home, so she named it Tag. Day. Karina smiled. I like that name. I have to admit, I never got around to naming the kitten myself. Tag is the perfect name. Rachel lifted her eyes once again. I like my doll, she said, and I like you. You're so nice. Karina swallowed hard. Didn't the girl realize they were enemies? She was a loyal German, and Rachel was a Jew, like oil and water. They just didn't mix. They could not be friends. On Monday, Karina didn't get a chance to talk to Rita until they met after dinner on their way to the young model meeting. Why aren't you wearing your uniform? Rita demanded upon seeing Karina in a sweater and gray shirt. It was dirty. Rita frowned. How do you expect to get back on the good side of the leaders if you don't even wear the uniform? I only have one, Karina said. Mother's washing it for me today so I can wear it tomorrow. At least I'm wearing my kerchief, she said. Rita shrugged. If you had two uniforms, you wouldn't run into this problem. My family can't afford another uniforms, Karina said evenly, trying to keep her anger in check. You know that, Rita. Maybe if your mother participated more in the Nazi women's organization, someone would offer to help you. Karina stopped walking and faced her friend. Are you trying to say that my mother isn't a good German? She demanded. I'm just saying that she isn't the most loyal person in this town. My mother loves Germany. She's just as loyal as your mother. She's just too busy to go regularly to the women's organization. Busy doing what? Rita asked. Guten Tag, Eva called, waking up the two girls. Hello, Karina said tersely. Rita ignored the other girl. What's going on with you two? Eva said, stepping around the girls to continue on her way. Aren't you coming to the meeting? She asked when she didn't get an answer. Yes, Karina said quickly. We're coming. She walked beside Eva, leaving Rita glaring after them. What was all that about? Eva asked under her breath. Nothing, Karina said. She was glad Eva had interrupted her conversation with Rita. She didn't think Rita could really be suspicious of her mother, but she didn't want to be questioned anyway. They walked a few moments in silence. I'm sorry, Karina, Rita said, who was walking behind the other two girls. Karina didn't stop walking or even turn around. I mean it, Karina. You're my best friend, and I know your mother is a loyal German. I didn't mean to sound so suspicious or anything. Now Karina stopped and turned around. I know, she said. I shouldn't have been so defensive. Are we still friends? Rita asked. Karina opened her arms wide. Of course. The two girls hugged each other while Eva watched. You'll always be my best friend, Rita. Karina grinned. You too. Now that that's settled, can we go? Eva asked dryly. Karina and Rita smiled at each other and started walking arm in arm, which forced Eva to walk behind them. But Karina didn't want the other girl to feel left out. So she pushed Rita to the edge of the sidewalk and pulled Eva up to walk beside them. On the rest of the way to the meeting, they sang their favorite song, Now This is the Time. Now this is the time, the hour calls to action to cut down evil, to bring about a new world where every man on earth will have a good life at home. On the horizon we see bright light, the earth is turning to a new and better future. A false gods fall, all men will be free. As they reached the building where their meetings were held, their voices trailed off. Karina took a deep breath. The last time she'd been to a meeting, she'd been slapped. Today, she would be sure to do everything right. She didn't want to be humiliated in front of everyone again. The troop meeting passed without a problem. Karina paid close attention to everything, not letting her mind wander for an instant. The leaders acted as if nothing had happened. They even commanded her on carrying extra pamphlets in her book bag because they needed them to give to a new member. Rita collected them from Karina's book bag along with some of the other girls. Eva had to leave the meeting early to take care of her younger brother, so Karina and Rita walked home together after the meeting. The bright sky was also fading to darkness, and a cold wind whipped at the girls as they buried their chins in their scarves. What? Karina said at hearing Rita mumble something. I forgot to ask you if you've heard about the Renickes. Rita repeated, this time lifting her face to the wind. Karina looked obliquely at her friend, not wanting to lift the lower portion of her face from the warmth of her scarf. She shook her head, but Rita wasn't looking at her, so she had to lift her head a bit and say, "No, what happened to them?" Hans searched her house last night. Visions of the search on her own house raced through her head. She wondered if Rita knew that Hans had hit her father. "So?" she said. "He found nothing there," Rita said. Karina could hear she suppressed excitement in the other girl's voice. "What did he find?" "Juice." "Juice?" Karina felt a sudden painful tightness in her stomach. "Juice," she repeated. "Two of them. They were hiding in the pantry. Hans said he sniffed them out. They stank so bad," Rita said gleefully. "How do you know all this?" "Hans came over this morning before I went to school. He was up all night searching houses." "Who were the Jews?" Karina asked. "Who cares who they were?" Rita said. "They're Jews. That's all anyone needs to know. I think they were a husband and wife." "What's going on to happen to the Rennickes?" Karina asked, hoping she sounded casual. "The Rennickes have been arrested. Hans said they'll probably be sent to war camp if they're not shot first." The knot in Karina's stomach pulled even tighter at the news. "What about the Jews?" Karina asked, trying not to sound too interested. "Who cares what happened to the Jews?" Rita said derisively. "They'll be sent away somewhere. Hans told Papa they were trying to leave Germany because they didn't want to be arrested or to be sent to a war camp. Imagine," she said, shaking her head. "Jews still think they have the right to make choices. The sooner they're all rounded up and sent away, the better it will be for all of us loyal Germans." Karina nodded briefly in agreement. "I can't believe that some of them are still in town. Not that it does them any good when their synagogues closed and their shops closed. I think they'd all want to go live somewhere else with other Jews. At least they'd be with their own kind." "Isn't Frau Renicki was your mother's best friend?" Rita continued, once more burying her chin in her neck scarf. I suppose they're friendly, or at least they were," Karina said. She knew that wasn't exactly the truth. The truth was that they had been the best of friends since they were children, and they still were. "Well, I certainly hope Frau Renicke's bad habits didn't rub off on your mother. Now that I think your mother is anything less than an absolutely loyal German," Rita added quickly. "They haven't seen each other lately," Karina lied. Rita nodded. "That's good, because any friends of the Rennickes will probably be under suspicion now. At least that's what my brother told Papa." "Did Hans also tell him that he searched our house?" Karina asked bitterly before she could stop herself. "And that he hit my father? Hans knocked him on the floor?" Rita looked startled, and she shook her head. "No, Karina, I swear he didn't say anything about that. What happened?" "He was ruining some of my mother's photographs, and my father told him to be careful. Hans hit my father and made him bleed." "I didn't know that, Karina. Honest, I didn't." Karina shrugged as if she didn't care, carefully taking control of her anger. "Hans was just doing his job. Papa shouldn't have interfered," she said, trying to sound nonchalant. Rita nodded. "That's true, but still, I'm surprised Hans hit your father. Hans is usually so gentle." Karina suppressed a shudder. Visions of Hans kicking her ass the other day popped into her mind, and the Hans she had seen the night he'd searched their house had been far from gentle. Karina turned down her path. "I'll see you tomorrow." She waved to Rita and then stepped into the warmth of her house. As she took off her coat and boots, she realized her hands were trembling. She found her mother in the front room. She was sitting in the dark with the curtains wide open. Mama, Karina said softly, sitting down beside her on the couch. She could see the sheen of tears on her mother's cheeks. Mother, what's wrong? Frau Renecki was all she said, reminding Karina what Rita had told her. Her mother's best friend had been arrested for harboring Jews. Would her parents be next? She wondered as she took her mother's cold hands into her own trembling ones. Suddenly her mother let out a sob, which sounded like it was a wrench or like it was wrenched from the bottom of her soul. She sound ripped through the quiet of the room and squeezed Karina's heart. Frau Rim put her arms around her daughter and cried against Karina's shoulder. Karina pulled her mother close, feeling helpless yet somehow in charge. This is them, Karina and her mom. See them? And her mother had always been there to dry her tears. That's what mothers were for. But now she consoled her mother, murmuring under her breath and rocking her back and forth. She suddenly felt grown up, something she'd longed to be for quite some time. Only now she wasn't sure she liked the feeling, or the heavy sense of responsibility that came with it. Her Rim finally came home, later than usual. He joined his family in the dark front room, enveloping his wife and daughter in his long, strong arms. No one said anything for quite a while. Finally, Karina's mother said, "The Krugmans are probably hungry." It's sad. That is sad. So, tomorrow I am going to continue chapter 12, boys and girls. The excitement is just getting intense and intense. So, let's find out what happened next. Okay? Until then, enjoy the rest of your day. Signing off, Miss Sanders. Bye bye.